From WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Week 3 of Beat the Champ here at Transit Lanes in Williamsville. And Sue, one of the things that we've seen through the first 2 weeks is a lot of good competition and a lot of winners. No one's been able to put a lot of wins together in a row.
I know, yeah, it hasn't been as streaky here as, at times in the past. And one thing I was talking about with Jayson Schube is that he had come across Jeremy Zimmerman on his last run here on Beat the Champ. So I said no streaks this time, so it might be a different story.
Yeah, Jayson Schube, one of the guys that will challenge our returning bowler. That's Will Gerhart. If he's going to want to put together a string of wins, he's going to have to get through Mike Zarcone, Brandon Digati before he gets to Jayson Schube.
That's right. I mean, it's a lot of competition and very explosive bowlers, so expect to see good scores.
Yeah, Will Gerhart is one of those guys, Janelle, that bowls here regularly, that loves bowling at Transit Lanes. Those guys with the home lanes advantage have showed up so far.
They have showed up, but they haven't, like you said, they haven't had the streaks. So home lane advantage, yes, but there's some good bowlers out
The
there.
problem is there's a lot of guys with home lane advantage, so none of them have been able to win a lot. We'll find out if Will Gerhart is the guy that can put some wins together, so let's get rolling.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with our reigning champ, Will Gearhart. Normally a Northtowns guy. I see you bowl Classic, Tonawanda, Island Lanes. What brought you here to Transit Lanes to try out?
I've bowled here a bunch as a kid, junior travel, things like that. And I did make the show here a couple of years ago, and it's just always a house I felt comfortable at. Never really bowled league here. It's just one of those houses you have a shot and you're locked in every time you're here.
Well, you looked very relaxed on your show, and I saw you a little bit in practice, and I wasn't sure 100% if you were lined up, and you came out of the gate with tons of strikes. Were you fishing around looking to see what was going to happen next?
The left lane's a little tighter than the right, so I was kind of fishing a little bit, trying to find the right speed, right mark to hit, and found it the last shot of practice, and it felt good, and got locked in after that.
All right. Well, it was a great performance, and hopefully we'll see you through the rest of this stage shows.
I certainly hope so.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with a familiar face, Mike Zarcone. So since the last time we saw you, you've shot 300, 100, and 101.
That's correct.
That's a lot of 300s, Mike.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. It's fun. I really like doing it.
So you're not intimidated by this 255 out here?
Nah. Hey, scoring is high today, so it's going to take 250 or 260 to win.
So maybe 300, number 102?
Could be. Be nice.
Okay, well, you deserve it, and I hope it happens. But we'll watch you bowl well no matter what.
Thank you.
All right.
Returning champion Will Gerhart will be challenged by Mike Zarcone in our first match here at Transit Lanes, week number 3. Will Gerhart making his third appearance on Beat the Champ, coming off an impressive performance in last week's show, where he defeated the red-hot Kevin Smith 255 to 228. So Will's been on the show 3 times, all of them here at Transit. 2 wins and 1 loss. Certainly he is comfortable here. He bowls well here. He was our top qualifier heading into the roll-off. So a lot of good stuff for Will Gerhart, and a good start for him as well, too.
Great shot out of the gate. These two approach the lane very, very differently. Will's very down and in. And, we know that Mike Zarcone has a very unique style, little shovel release that's really given him optimum carry over the years. But he's going to go right to left, and Will's going to be right the other way.
Well,
left
and
to
of course,
right.
Mike Zarcone, one of the all-time great bowlers in Western New York history, and the best bowler on this show, making his 21st appearance, an overall record of 17 wins and 14 losses, the 21st appearances, and the 17 wins, the most out of anybody since we've been on the air for the last 2+ years here at Beat the Champ. He is the preeminent Beat the Champ bowler.
I mean, I think it's a testimony to how much that Mike can strike, because it's no easy task to continually be in the top 9 when you come to these finals. You're in a different house all the time, under different conditions for the day. So, sometimes things change, nighttime, whatever, and he still continues to make the show on a regular basis.
And I'll give you an interesting stat about Mike, and that shows how great he has been in relation to this show when he comes up next. But we'll watch Will Gerhart 28 years old, from Amherst, New York. Receiving manager at Burlington Coat Factory is his full-time occupation. And he's off to a good start with strikes in the first 2 frames. Will Gerhart bowls regularly at a number of places around Western New York. Mondays at Island Lanes on Grand Island, Fridays at Classic Lanes, and Saturdays at the Tonawanda Bowling Center. All wonderful spots that we take Beat the Champ to on a yearly basis.
That's true. I found it unique that although he's an Amherst guy, all his leagues are north. And yet here he has such great success but doesn't bowl here. So.
Right.
But he did say he bowled juniors here, and he kind of grew up in this bowling center, so he's got that comfort level.
Yeah, you can tell he's, like you said, comfortable here, and that there is some knowledge here as well, too. And what a way to start for Will Gerhart, 3 consecutive strikes. So Mike Zarcone has been on now his 21st Beat the Champ show, and what the point I want to make is the next person who has been on the show the most, and we talk a lot about how hard it is to make the show, 166 bowlers qualifying this week down to the final 9. Chuck Jagodzinski's 13, so Mike Zarcone has been on 8 more shows than the next bowler who has been able to qualify for this show the most.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
And you can get a good close-up look at him and the routine, and there might have even been a little kiss of the bowling ball there, right? That work? Maybe not.
No.
You ever do that? No?
Actually, storm balls have a smell to them, and I had one of my storm balls that smelled so awesome. I didn't kiss it, but I did smell it from time to time because it smelled fantastic.
Wow, interesting.
They all have different smells to them.
Is that true? Just the material that they use to make it, or?
Yeah, it's part of their shtick is to have the balls that have like fruit smells.
Hey,
oh my God, it smells so good.
Save a lot on, you could save a lot on perfume. Tell Craig he doesn't have to buy any more perfume.
Or my car air freshener.
So
unfortunately, it doesn't make up for the smell of my shoes.
Well, I guess that is a good balancing out with bowling shoes, right? No cards and letters, no emails of complaint, but I think anybody that bowls knows bowling shoes are not the most fragrant of foot attire.
My teammates run when I take my bowling shoes off. Which is why I take them off and say, here, will you hold this?
Oh, nice, very nice. So Will gets the spare in frame 6, and he'll move over to lane 11 for frame number 7.
Still got a healthy 32-pin lead going, though. Nice shot.
And there, nice strike. It was Will Gerhart that took home the dirt cheap television valued at $500 because he was the top qualifier in the round of 24, and that goes every month to our top 24 qualifier. He gets the television, and that is up for grabs right now, qualifying this weekend at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia for next month's stop.
Actually, this weekend they're qualifying for the extra show.
Oh, correct. It's next week.
And next weekend they'll be back to qualifying for the Beat the Champ show, and it's going to be all in one day. So you can drive out to Fredonia and make a day of it because the finals are going to be that same night, so you don't have to worry about returning. So it's the 25th, and the squads are 12, 2, and 4, and then the finals will follow that 4 o'clock squad, and take the top 9 for the show.
Yep, and someone may be returning from Fredonia with a television in the back of the car.
That's right.
So Mike Zarcone, who, happy birthday to Mike, just turned 50 years old at the beginning of the year. So the first time we've seen him on the show here as a 50-year-old, and he got a little bit of the veteran break there with that slide over.
Well, that's a painful leave when you really need it. I mean, no one ever likes to leave an 8 or a 9, but they do seem to show up when you least need them.
So after a couple of stumbles there for Mike Zarcone, that's 2 strikes in a row for the Hall of Fame bowler Mike Zarcone. So now back to Will Gerhart, frame number 8.
So you see some of these contraptions on his arm here. He's got a compression sleeve on his elbow, and he's also got the wrist support. And there's many different kinds of wrist support. This one right here is just a little metal in the wrist to, keep it a little straighter. It's not. There's some ones where you can dial them and they'll affect your release. So we talked a little bit about, Jack, about being behind the ball and being on the side of the ball and how do you create that. Well, there is wrist supports that help create that. This is not really one of them, but this is one that does give him, keep him from breaking his wrist, which was probably one of his
that's
problems.
a common problem for bowlers?
Some.
It must be common enough that they sell a lot of wrist guards.
Wrist supports, right?
Yeah.
And you see women a lot with the wrist guards because they're a little bit, they're not built a little bit more fragile, I guess I'll say, than men. But if one of the problems you have is breaking your wrist back, or that's one way to alleviate is by putting one of those wrist supports on.
So you're actually saying there are different kinds of wrist supports that can actually put your wrist in a position to either compensate for or help you throw it a different way?
Exactly, and then they dial, and you can dial so that you can't break your wrist, and it's going to create a certain type of roll off your hand.
Interesting.
Because you can't do anything else but throw it that way.
I think one of the things I've learned from you is the equipment in this sport is pretty amazing sometimes, and cutting edge technology and some of the things that you don't see anywhere else, that the bowling equipment people really work hard.
And and those are all well and good, and I suppose that a lot of sports have their little tweaks to help you, but nothing is a substitute in this game for practice and knowledge. It's physical, like you saw what Bill Truman went through when he didn't run a marathon, but what he did was exhausting. You're coupling that mental with the physical, and it's very tiring.
Bill actually admitted to me that he actually tweaked a groin muscle in practice before that third match of his, the one that he wound up losing to Kevin Smith, that affected the way he wanted to throw the ball.
Well, and
he would never say it, and he wouldn't make any excuses. But I'm saying that plays a role, and I guess, hey, let's be all honest. At a 67-year-old guy like Bill Truman, as great as he is, that's going to have a little more effect on you than if it happened to Will Gerhart.
Well, this is a game of leverage, and if you don't have leverage, you lose ball speed. Speed is generated with your legs, and without that.
How about 5 in a row here? Not to interrupt you, but look at the way that Mike Zarcone is finishing with 5 strikes in a row and a chance to get 6 to either win this match or put an awful lot of pressure on Will Gerhart.
Okay, so what's going to happen here is Will's got a strike up in the 10th. He's going to need the first strike and some decent count in order to beat Mike now. So this was a great finish for Mike to put the pressure back on Will.
And look at Mike Zarcone ending with 3 strikes in the 10th, 6 in a row overall, and that is the true pro and Hall of Famer that Mike Zarcone is, that even though there were a couple of stumbles for him in this match, he knows how to rescue it and finish with a 245. Will that be good enough?
Well, and if you notice, Will, this is the lane that Will has not been striking on. He's been striking on 11, but he has not been striking on 10, not in the last couple frames anyway. So he's got a little mental block to get over here. So he has to have this first one.
And he does not get the strike in the first ball of the 10th frame, Will Gerhart's.
So Mike will be our winner.
So how about that? From the point when Mike Zarcone was throwing his arms up in the air after a disappointing open frame in the 4th, and he fires his way back, and we're thinking, boy, Mike's struggling a little bit here. No way. He finishes strong, and he winds up getting the win, and that's why he is the winningest bowler on this show. He knows how, even in the middle of a match, to rescue things and get himself a victory. It's a win for Mike Zarcone. We'll come back and wrap it up and talk to Will Gerhart and get you ready for match number 2. When Sue and I return, it's Beat the Champ at Transit Lanes in Williamsville. We're back right after this. 245 to 237, our final score as Mike Zarcone comes from behind to beat Will Gearhart. You rattle off 5 straight strikes on the first 5 frames. Mike has an open. Was there a point where you're thinking, okay, I might have this one, I got this guy?
You can't think that way because you got to keep your foot on the pedal, because a guy like Mike's caliber, you gotta keep going. There's a couple shots I wish I had back that I got a little soft on, and in the end, that's what cost me.
All right, well, you did a nice little run here. You've been very good here at Transit Lanes. We got to branch you out a little bit,
For
right?
sure, definitely got to start making some other shows.
All right, Bill?
Congratulations, great bowling throughout the qualifier and today. So tough match, that close, matter of a frame or so, you catch a strike. Good job.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
All right, so Mike Zarcone moves on to match number 2 against Brandon Digati. We'll have that when we return to Transit Lanes. You're watching Beat the Champ.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with Mr. Talker, Brandon Digati. Brandon, also known as Uncle Buck. Tell us a little bit about that.
You ever see the movie Uncle Buck?
Yep.
That pretty much explains what I am, is Uncle Buck. My brother's son, Angelo, ball of fun. I get to be Uncle Buck.
And he's here with a sign today, I think.
I don't know if he has a sign, but he's definitely here.
Okay, well, let's have fun for him today.
I'm going to have fun. I tried to win a bunch of times. I keep losing, so we'll have fun instead.
Okay, sounds good. Bowl good out there.
I'm going to try. Thank you.
Match number 2, Mike Zarcone to be challenged by Brandon Digati from Grand Island. We've had Brandon on the show a number of times. This is the actual 3rd time that he has been on Beat the Champ. He's looking for win number 1. Always going to be a challenge to do it against Mike Zarcone. Brandon Digati holds a place of Beat the Champ notable trivia because he was in the very first match when the show returned up at the Rapids Bowling Center right in 2016.
I thought Brandon was the one that hurt himself and Mowitz got in because he had hurt himself and had to withdraw at the last minute.
I don't remember that, but something tells me that may sound correct.
We'll have to.
Him and Mowitz horsing around somewhere? Is that what it was? And a spare to open things up for Brandon Digati, and Mike Zarcone strolls up to the lanes now with 18 career Beat the Champ wins, more than anyone else. And Mike Zarcone, that was a thing of beauty, that last match, because there was a point, 4th frame open, kind of flung his arms up in the air. Meanwhile, Will Gerhart's rattling off strikes.
True. And the second half of the game totally flipped.
And then Mike Zarcone ends with 6 consecutive strikes. You know. So, and that's what that's as I said, that's what Mike Zarcone is. You better not, don't ever think you got that guy done and buried. He's too good, and he's been in too many situations to know how to handle it.
Yeah, you know what? Good for him though, because time to time I've seen it get to him, and this time it didn't. He rallied back really strong.
And there's a nice strike for Mike Zarcone.
And now he's got a little swagger to him. We can almost see the confidence
to go along with the one in the first frame. So 2 strikes to open up with for Zarcone, and Brandon Digati strolls up here for frame number 2. 29 years old from Grand Island, works at General Motors, and then also works at Island Lanes, and we've seen him there when we bring the show there every year. Somebody has to clean up all of Mowitz's messes on occasion, right?
Wow. Brandon, the cleanup guy.
Nice strike for Brandon. Got a good cheering section here. He's got his mom cheering him on. He's got his nephew, Angelo, who is just about #1 Beat the Champ fan. He's got the signs and everything else going. He's got his Aunt Tracy and his Aunt Michelle here, all cheering on Brandon Digati.
I believe the sign says Zarcone.
Oh, the signs are for Michael. Well, we've got rivaling signs over there. So. So Brandon Digati now pulls out the spare ball, trying to grab this one here in frame number 3. Oh, he missed it. Bounced it into the gutter. That will not count. So it's an open in the third for Brandon Digati. And then the 50-year-old from Tonawanda, Mike Zarcone, with that healthy 235 average. That it might even be a little low knowing the way Mike bowls on a regular basis.
Yeah, but that's spread out over a bunch of places, I'm sure. Oh,
yeah, that's spread out over, at least 3 days a week of bowling. Why am I surprised to think that Mike's only bowling 3 days a week?
I'm sure he's filling in on another couple after that.
Classic lanes on Monday, Kenmore lanes on Thursday, and in the Travel League on Saturdays. 2014 Obenauer Masters champion. The Obenauer's coming up pretty soon here, isn't it?
It will be early in May. Yeah, it's coming up.
Always one of the big moments on the bowling calendar in Western New York. Oh, and everything moved around except for what needed to knock the 6-pin down.
Yeah, I know that's a tough leave, but his ball does break so hard in the back that it just missed the 9 as it was making its turn.
And there's the spare ball for Mike.
We're going to be back with more Beat the Champ bowling action in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
So strikes in the first 3, spare in the fourth for Mike Zarcone, and Brandon Digati will stroll up. Brandon with a 238 average for the 29-year-old from Grand Island. He bowls regularly in a league on Thursday nights here in Western New York. 11 career 300 games, 7 career 800 series with a high of 867.
Wow, that's a big number.
And once again, a lot of pin movement except for the one that he needed to drop to 10. Last time we saw Brandon Digati here on the show was up in Grand Island when he bowled at Island Lanes a couple of months ago.
Was that in the special show or in the regular show?
No, that was in the regular show. And once again, Brandon misses the spare ball. That is back-to-back opens on missed spare balls for Brandon Digati. And that's difficult and tough for any bowler to do. There's Janelle Sabin in the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. And that looks like it's prompting a ball change for Brandon Digati.
Yeah. If you notice, Brandon, his swing is not perfectly straight if you watch him from the back. And it seems to be causing a little bit of a problem on his spares because his swing is getting away from him. See, it goes away from his body. He brings it back down, but he has to do that every single time to get it behind his back and then back to be in line. So I noticed on his spares, it was his swing that got away from him that caused him to miss those spares.
So here's yet another spare that he's going to have to pull off. And
there
he gets that one. So a spare in the 5th frame for Brandon Digati. But at the moment, Mike Zarcone in control of this match with 3 strikes and a spare through the first 4.
It's hard to give a bowler like Mike that big of an opening because they just feed, great bowlers feed off that.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, you don't see a lot of 2 open frames, by any of our bowlers here. And I would assume there haven't been a lot of people that have had 2 opens and been able to beat Mike Zarcone. But that doesn't mean Mike doesn't still have to work his way through the final 5 frames here.
Nope, he's up 42 though in the 4th.
That's a pretty big size early.
It's a sizable lead early.
Overall, what's jumped out at you about 2.5 matches or so here at Transit Lanes over the last couple of weeks?
I don't.
Anything in particular? I think we talked about the fact that we haven't really had anybody win more than 2 in a row. So
yeah,
the competition's been really tight.
Because the over/under that strip of oil against the strip of dry has modified. I don't want to say modified the scores. We've seen some big scores, but it hasn't given people free reign to just, strike and not have to make modifications. So even though this is a house shot and it's a high scoring, this place is high scoring, that can be that's what caused people problems is throwing one bad shot and leaving something unmakeable, even a couple splits. So
there's 2 in a row for Brandon Digati. Good shots. Finding his groove here a little bit.
Yeah, overall, I just have to say that I think it's been very fair and it's been very evenly matched over the course of all 3 weeks here. Nobody's run away with anything. I guess that explains why we haven't had any great streaks, because it's been very evenly matched.
And remember, we started our run here at Transit Lanes with Pete Maduri coming in on a 7-match winning streak off of Kearns Avenue, and he winds up losing in the first match. Rob Piccoli beats him, and then Rob Piccoli loses to Bill Truman, and then Bill Truman wins, but then Bill Truman moves on, and then he winds up losing. And Kevin Smith is the only guy that's really won. Bill won 2 in a row, Kevin won 2 in a row, and that's been it. So the conditions and the competition level have made it a pretty even matchup.
Nice shot.
All that said, nobody knows how to run some streaks together as well as Mike Zarcone does. He's won 6 in a row. That happened a year ago or so at Grand Island, but Mike knows how to string a lot of wins together here, and maybe this is the start of another one.
What's going to be interesting is because Mike's a little bit deeper on the lane than because of his game and because of the way he throws it. He's a little bit deeper on the lane, which is the part of the lane which I think is would hold up the longest, because that's where the highest concentration of oil is. So it would maybe stand to reason that he could last longer because his shot will hold up longer. But being that we're at the end of our run here, and this is week 3, we won't really get a chance to see how long that would actually play out. But I think for the rest of the day, he's in a spot that isn't going to change a whole lot, like the outside of the lane would, where the boards are drier.
Right.
So,
and of course, whoever wins the next match here, whether it's Mike Zarcone or Jayson Schube, they will advance to the wood lanes at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. So once again, not necessarily a lot of carryover advantage.
Right, and there's something to go on all the way to Fredonia. Do you spend the night? And if you don't, you have to get up extra early in the morning, and you've got the drive, and there are things that play on you physically when you're talking about traveling to go to compete.
That's 3 strikes in the last 4 frames as Brandon Digati has figured out a couple of the things that were plaguing him early, but it may be just a bit too late based on what the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard tells us. And the fact that Mike Zarcone has had now 8 strikes in 9 frames has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah, Mike's going to take this one, and he's going to move on to see if he can finish off the run here at Transit Lanes and take it to Fredonia.
Right, so Mike Zarcone is going to be our winner. 2 in a row for Mike. He'll get himself ready for our next match against Jayson Schube. We'll have that for you when we return to Beat the Champ at Transit Lanes. Well, Mike Zarcone knocks off Brandon Digati, and you got a little help here. You got a little Angelo here to help you out, right? What do you think, Angelo? Kind of a tough one, huh? That's all right. We don't need that. That's okay. You hit those 2 rough frames early on, right?
It's more than just that. You got to throw the ball good sooner or later. I couldn't throw the ball good.
Right, and when you're going up against Zarcone, there's not a lot of margin for error, right?
You can't miss. I missed 8 of 9 shots. I missed.
Right.
You can't bowl.
What is it that Angelo calls you?
Uncle Buck.
Uncle Buck.
Uncle Buck.
All right, Bill, give Uncle Buck a little bit of spending money there.
Congratulations. Nice bowling with you.
Yeah.
Glad you're here.
Thank you guys.
All right, keep an eye on him, will you?
It's not my job. I can just send it back home.
Mike Zarcone and Jayson Schube, our next match coming up on Beat the Champ.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with Jayson Schube. Last time we saw you, you were coming up against a big streak from Jeremy Zimmerman. So no streaks today. You got a little more confidence with that?
Yeah, I think so. I've been bowling pretty good recently, and I hadn't got to the last couple of telecasts or to the last couple of qualifiers. Bowled really well in this one, so hopefully I get a better result today.
Well, maybe the streak will be you this time.
Sounds good to me.
All right, well, let's make this place your place. How's that?
I like it.
All right, well.
Thank you.
So here we go with match number 3. Mike Zarcone looking for the sweep of the week. The man who stands between him and that happening is right there, Jayson Schube, 35 years old, from Alden, New York, making his 3rd Beat the Champ show appearance, still looking for win number 1. Jayson, a very good bowler, solid bowler in a lot of places around Western New York, and he'll put a good test into Mike Zarcone here as we get you started on the final match of our 3-week run here at Transit Lanes in Williamsville. It's our special exhibition show coming up next week, and a good start for Jayson Schube.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. He's playing very deep on the lane, and that is normally a place in the lane that is a little inconsistent. So 11 has appeared to have a little better ball reaction in there. 12 people seem to have been to the right a little bit more, so we'll see how he plays them.
Incredibly consistent so far today for Mike Zarcone. 245 and 258 are his scores, and he starts with a strike as Mike looks to become the first bowler in our 2.5-year run of Beat the Champ to reach 20 career wins. He's at 19 right now. 19 wins and 14 losses for Mike Zarcone in his 21st show appearance. So little milestone on the line here for Mike, and a win in this match extends him on to next month's shows in Fredonia. And good pin action as that pin went flying across to take out the 10 and get Mike another strike. So Jayson Schube already knows he's in for a battle here with Mike Zarcone. IT professional at ECMC is Jayson Schube. Mentioned he's from Alden, 35 years old, been bowling since he was 4 or 5 years old. 6 career 300 games and a high 823 series. And a strike for Jayson.
Yeah, his break point is definitely more to the right on lane 12. So they have broken down to be different, and but he's got it figured out early on in the match.
Last time we saw Jayson Schube was a couple of months ago at Classic Lanes when he was one of the victims of Jeremy Zimmerman in the midst of Jeremy's streak of 14 consecutive wins that included sweeping all 9 matches at Classic Lanes, and Jayson Schube was one of the guys that he beat, and that goes back to September's shows of last year.
Yeah, that's very vivid in my mind. I mean, that was almost like it felt meant to be. Everything just fell Jeremy's way that day.
Yep.
And even when he looked like it was going to come to an end, something would happen, and it was just...
Trying to remember, see if I had put in my notes whether Jayson was one of those victims of one of those crazy moments for Jeremy Zimmerman where, okay, Jeremy's going to lose unless this guy only gets 4 pins, and the guy would only get 4 pins, you know? So that happened a lot back then. I don't remember whether Jayson was part of that or not. So 2 strikes to open for Zarcone, and he'll play for a spare here in frame number 3. And Mike gets it. So a little early advantage for Jayson Schube in this one, but as we saw in our first match with Will Gerhart, who opened with 5 consecutive strikes, that wasn't enough to get him a win.
No, and we know that Mike's lined up in a tough opponent, and it's just a corner pin that he left, so it's not like he's lost or anything.
Oh, and then Mike didn't like that, and you can clearly see that.
Well, that is not his first one on this lane. This lane is making, this lane hooks more. You can tell by the way they're playing it. Everybody's a little bit deeper, but you still have to get the ball to the dry. And for Mike, when his ball hits that dry, it just turns left, and it drives through the pocket, and it goes behind the head pin and misses the 9.
So back-to-back spares for Mike Zarcone in frames number 3 and 4. Jayson Schube bowls regularly here on Tuesday nights at Transit Lanes in the Sport Shot League. And, you know, Jayson has a great overall average, but when you see his average is under 200 in the Sport Shot League, that just tells you how much different that shot can be.
You're looking at 30 pins, right?
Yeah.
33 pins between the two averages. And people don't realize how difficult the lanes can really be.
And I'm sure Jayson would be the first to tell you it's made him a better bowler, and ouch there with a 7-10 split from Jayson Schube.
That is just a dreaded spare in this game when you hit the pocket, and it's bad enough to leave one, let alone leave both.
Right, so after strikes in the first 3 frames, he's looking at the goalposts here and see whether Jayson's got a miracle in that right arm of his or not. About what's the general percentage of people that make a 7-10 split?
Oh God, it's less than 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's that rare to see it made, correct?
I'd have to, I don't even know if there's a Google for it, but there's a Google for everything.
Yeah.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
2016 Greater Buffalo USBC Hall of Fame inductee Mike Zarcone. That was a lot of fun to be at that ceremony when Mike went in 2016. I know you were there. I was honored to be there as well too. It's a great event every year, the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. There'll be one coming up this fall if I'm not mistaken.
Who did you introduce for that? Was it Merkel?
I think I introduced Greg Merkel, who's the president, yes. I got a few shots in there, and then he returned the favor on me as well too. So you can never get the last word when you're dealing with Greg Merkel, so you try to get in as many as you can. I know there's another Hall of Fame induction ceremony coming up because I'm honored to be one of the media members on the voting committee, and we actually are going to be meeting later this month to determine who's going to be in the next class. So you're already in that, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, I was going to say, if you weren't, I was going to pull some strings for you. But you're already in. You didn't need my help for that.
I know that Joe Zarcone is on the ballot this year, local.
Yeah, great, terrific local bowler. Joe's been battling some injuries lately, right? Is that why he's not bowling as much?
He's been out of the game for a couple years now with a neck injury. Had some surgery, didn't seem to fix it up that well, and I think it's a big question whether he'll ever really bowl again.
Yeah, I know, and I don't know if he's still doing it or not, but Joe's always very busy involved with the ESPN television broadcast, as part of the crew.
And I think he still is involved in that.
Good for Joe.
Some website work, but you know, you want to talk about a man that practices. That man practiced every day. He was in here every day and always, you know, taking care of himself, always putting the ice pack on, you know, because he had the problems, and he was quite young to have his career ended the way it has.
That's too bad for Joe, but he's still contributing to the sport, and Joe knows anytime he's floating around and he wants to come join us on this show, he's more than welcome to do that. Jayson, with a good bounce back from the 2 open frames, comes back with a strike in the 6th. Now he'll just need to keep striking out here to keep the pressure on Mike Zarcone, and so far so good.
I mean, even with the 2 opens, he's still only down 15 pins. So that's, and with a double up and a spare up for Mike, I mean, that virtually is non-existent lead.
And the 10-pin holds up for Zarcone, but what we know Mike is good about is just continuing to pound away and make those spares and just keep scoring well.
Well, it's funny you asked what might be the observation of the bowling here this month, and it would be the fact that no one can keep anything going for any great length of time.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's just corner pins or an 8-pin or a 9-pin, there seems to be that great equalizer that pops out. Yet the scores here were so high, 799, 800, 803 to make the top spot. So I think, again, that's the difference between one side of the house and the other, because qualifying was probably on the high end.
All right, now, thanks to the wonderful world of technology, while you're talking there, I'm trying to look up on my phone to answer our question about how often a 7-10 split is made, and I didn't have a lot of luck finding it, but what I did come up with was people saying that the hardest shot to make in bowling is not the 7-10 split, but the Greek church shot.
See, now I've made a Greek church, but I have not even come close to making a 7-10. I find that surprising.
I don't know. It's on the internet. It must be right.
Yeah, okay. I know a lot of people who hopes that's not true.
Yeah, well, okay. Back on the bowling before we get ourselves in any more trouble here. So Jayson Schube has hit a couple of strikes in a row here. Meanwhile, Mike Zarcone just keeps knocking off those spares. And there's the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep scoreboard.
Another strike here, and he's in the lead, so that's just how this game goes. And there it is.
And there's your strike. So how about that? After open frames and nearly back-to-back 7-10 splits in the 4th and 5th frames, Jayson Schube finds himself in front.
That's right.
It's a strange game.
It absolutely is.
I mean, who would have ever expected that, you know? But again, you make your mistakes, you make them early, you leave yourself the ability to come back, and you never know what your opponent's going to do.
And it's not that Mike has made bad shots. He's left 2 10 pins.
There's 4 in a row for Jayson Schube. This potentially one of the great comebacks in Beat the Champ history. Still not completed yet, and Mike's got something to say about that, too.
Well, as it stands, Mike's going to have to strike out to even have a chance at winning this match.
And that will not happen here in frame number 9. As the 7-pin holds up, and in the most unlikely of victories, Jayson Schube has defeated Mike Zarcone. Not unlikely because Jayson wouldn't be expected to win, but unlikely with 2 open frames.
But all the rest were strikes, so.
That is correct. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. As I look at the score sheet, you're right. Everything else is a strike, and that's the difference. But I don't know that we've had anybody win off the top of my head here on Beat the Champ with 2 open frames. How often does that happen generally?
I'm not sure about that. It all depends, right? It's not likely these bowlers do have 2 open frames.
That doesn't happen very often, yes.
I believe that Kevin Smith earlier had 2 open frames too, so
well,
we have
hang on. I can check for you, because if you're going to call me out, Sue, I'm going to try to back myself up here. I don't think Kevin did have 2 open frames. But we won't argue about it. You're always right. You're the Hall of Fame bowler, not me.
I know somebody did today.
But so still, but you can understand my surprise in all of this, right? And Mike, I think, kind of knows his fate now and kind of lost his edge a little bit. So.
Well, the match was wrapped up in the 9th, so.
So. Jayson Schube with an impressive come-from-behind victory. We'll talk to Jayson about the unlikeliness of that, and we'll talk to Mike, and we'll get you ready for next week's and next month's shows when Sue and I return to Transit Lanes here on Beat the Champ. Well, 10 strikes and 2 open frames is an unusual way to get to a 243 to 204 win for Jayson Schube. We'll let Sue ask Jayson about that in a moment. But even on your side, when you see a guy almost leaves 2 7-10 splits in the middle of a match, you kind of probably feel like, okay, I'm in good shape here.
Yeah, usually you do, but halfway through that match, I had to make a little move, and I lost my carry. And that happens.
It was, as Bill Truman brought up, no one won more than 2 in a row here at Transit, yourself included. What was it about either the level of competition or the conditions here?
Well, the conditions are fine. You just, the transition, you have to make the move. And I made the move, thought I made the right move, but I couldn't carry. So Jayson bowled great. All
right. See, Bill, you're providing color commentary even when you're not even around.
And nice to hear him say the conditions are nice. We love to hear that. So thanks, Mike. And a little money for you for your fine shooting today.
Right.
Nice job.
All right, Sue, I'm interested to hear Jayson's reaction.
Speak to the pocket 7-10 and then almost the second one. What's the adjustment from that, and what did you think happened?
Basically, I don't think I got fast or anything. My adjustment after that was to just get a little bit more hand in the ball, and as soon as I did that, I got the ball back to the right part of the pocket, and my carry was good after that.
Oh, that's perfect, because it did look like maybe your reaction was going away a little bit, and then you just got it right back again like that.
Yeah, just a little bit more hand, and that was my adjustment.
All right, well, perfect. Great bowling today.
Thank you.
All right, well, pretty good stuff. Exciting. There, oh yeah, we got to get him his money first. There, I'll say, Bill's got to get him his money first. Good stuff, exciting stuff, interesting stuff. Sue and I will wrap it up and get you ready for next week and next month when we return to Transit Lanes in Williamsville. You're watching Beat the Champ. Well, we saw a little bit of everything here this month at Transit Lanes. Near perfect game. We had another overtime. We saw that match with the 2 near 7-10s open and still a victory. Right. It made for some good bowling, didn't it?
It did, and it was a month where we've talked about where there was no real significant streak started because the lanes played consistent and no one could really get a big advantage on somebody else.
Yeah.
So that was the interesting thing about the month.
And the bowlers were all pretty evenly matched, which is why no one could really dominate. So Jayson Schube going to get the week off next week. He'll advance on to face 9 new challengers at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. And Jayson will have to carry a little bit of that momentum with him down to the southern tier. And can't wait to see what the crowds are down there because we know the crowds were good here.
The crowds were great here. I mean, we had fans, like I said. There were signs. It was awesome. It was so much fun and exciting.
Yeah, and we're not done yet because we've got our Transit Lane Senior Showdown. That's next week's show, including familiar names like Gary Kenyon and John Masiello. So make sure you join us for that when we return to Transit Lanes for next week's Beat the Champ.